Alignment begins with self-respect, self-worth, and self-love. Self-respect is a state of appreciation for oneself that can be broken down into 4 categories: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. It involves having a high regard for your own well-being and happiness, and taking care of your needs without sacrificing them to please others. Self-respect can also mean not settling for less than you deserve. The golden rules of ascension begins when you decide to do the work and the deep dive into your soul's progression. You begin to understand that you are responsible for yourself. Do you practice self-respect? Are you being honest with your feelings and expressing your wants and needs? Be careful what you tell yourself and how you are in the world. You deserve self-respect. Open your hearts to self-development, kindness for yourselves and others. Quote, self-respect, self-worth, and self-love all start with self. Stop looking outside of yourself for your value. Self-love and the inner child energy work begin with you. We never stop evolving, so the self-care and energy work should never stop. Change is inevitable and something we must embrace and not fight against. To cope with changes, we must do the inner work on ourselves. Energy work is soul work. Unquote, Rob Liano. Self-respect is loving yourself and treating yourself with care. It's the result of staying true to your values and not being willing to compromise. The more you engage in behaviors consistent with your beliefs and values, the more you feel fulfilled and confident. How do I love myself and respect myself? Replace criticism and comparison with an acceptance and appreciation. Communicate with yourself in a kind and positive way. Show respect for yourself by setting boundaries and prioritizing your needs. Spend quality time with yourself. Develop trust in yourself by honoring your commitments. Get to know yourself. Challenge unkind thoughts about yourself. Stay positive. When you do the work, you'll see the results, and you'll understand that self-respect is not given, it is earned. Welcome everyone to Andromeda 7, your celestial gateway and your channel for community support, help, friendship, love, and knowledge. So tonight we are talking about self-respect. I hope everybody had a really good 4th of July and you had a good week.
Sure did.
Good. And I've got Teresa to my right, as you can see. Sophia, Dalibor, and Grandpa Brian are joining us tonight. And we're just discussing the self-respect. Right off the bat, as I see here in chat, and I get a little confused by your comments sometimes, beloved abstract. The self you're talking about here is ego, so the premise is flawed. Yes, we are all pure ego. We all come here with an ego to be who we're going to be, but we are not given self-respect. Self-respect is something that you earn, you learn, and you apply to yourself. That's kind of where I'm coming from and the group is coming from. But I thought that was interesting because sometimes I'm not quite sure where you're coming from, beloved abstract. But maybe you're coming from ego. Anyway, when we talk about the show and what we're going to do, I always consult spirit. I have a spirit guide named Eric Medhus, and he helped me along with Teresa and others as to what the topics are going to be. And he wanted me to discuss this because I said, what's going on in people's minds right now? And he said that people are telling themselves these things. I'm not responsible for my thoughts. I'm not the one who directs my life. I'm not responsible for my actions, words, and feelings. And people are telling themselves that. And we're trying to let you know that there's another way to go about life, and that is to, you know, you have respect. When you pay your bills, you respect the power being on. You respect the phone bill being paid. You respect your elders. You respect people in your community or your boss. But how often do you really respect yourself? And that's where I'm coming from is, where is the focus on the self? Um,
Mhm.
you're so able to give it to other people, but how do you give it to yourself?
Well,
So
like I
go
always
ahead.
say, there's
Mm-hmm.
always two ways to solve a maze, right? You can
Mm-hmm.
start from the
Hi, guys.
beginning and go to the end, or you can start at the end and go to the beginning. And in
Mm-hmm.
this case, I would say, well, since you're looking at other people, then look at other people and see which characteristics you admire in them, and then try to find those same characteristics in yourself.
Yeah, that's that's exactly the way I see it as well. You look up to these people and you're like, wow, they're so together. They're so on point. But how do you really get there? And that's what enlightenment is really all about. And that's what I've been learning through my guides and through spirit, how to do that. And it's absolutely being careful what you tell yourself in your mind. Being present, being honest. And it's not just with other people, which you want to be, but with yourself. Why do I feel this way? Why am I feeling like this? What am I telling myself? What stories am I telling myself? That kind of a thing. So, Eric gave me about 3 questions to ask everyone. I'm just going to put those out there and give you a chance to think about those. First one is, do you have self respect and why do you have it? Second one is, who's responsible for your self respect? I think we know that one. And when do you practice self respect? And tonight, I'm going to start with Grandpa Brian tonight. Very seldom do I go to you first. And so I thought tonight, let's hear from you and what your take is on it. And yeah, what's your feelings?
Uh,
Do you
for
have self
me,
respect?
oh yes, I have definitely have self-respect,
Mm
and I've earned that through all the trials and all the shit that I went through in my lifetime, and actually survived and grew from them. And that's what helped me learn about self-respect. Uh, it's all tied together. Your self-respect, your self-discipline, anything about the self, it's all tied together. You basically can't have one without the other. You
hmm.
have to have them all to get to that self love. Because if you don't have self respect, if you have self doubt, uh, all that, how can you love yourself? So, self respect is probably the last aspect before self love. Because if you don't respect yourself, how can you love yourself? Because that means you're not actually accepting who you are.
Mm hmm.
It's going inside,
Mm hmm.
even dealing with the ugly and
Right.
accepting. Because the acceptance, to me, is one of the first things that comes first, accepting who you truly are.
Mm hmm.
Then it's all the other steps of self, going right up to self respect. And then once you have all that, you truly have self love for yourself because you have all them other attributes about you that help create that self love.
Self love, self respect, self worth, and
Yeah,
having that for yourself.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just like you said, it's all tied together. People think it's separate. It's not. It's all tied together because you
Mm-hmm.
really can't have one without the other.
Mm-hmm. BA, you're right on that self-respect. It is the loss of the ego, to a degree, um, but it's not being led by the ego. That's the whole trick about enlightenment. You're able to keep control over your emotions, your feelings, how you are in the world. And that's what's really important for people that are coming into enlightenment. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to do this topic, was to just, address it and get a feeling for what each of you thinks about this. How about you, Delabor? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Grandpa Brian. You had something.
Get back to the ego thing.
Okay, thank you.
You can't take your ego inside with you when you go inside, because your ego will get in the way. So you have to release that ego to really step inside yourself.
And how do you release that ego? By controlling your emotions, your thoughts, your feelings?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not only that. The only time my ego really comes out is when I'm at work. Other than that, I keep it in check, because I want to live in that love space. I want to be happy. I want to be free. I don't want to.
Yeah.
To me, ego is a lot of judgmental.
That's for sure.
Because when your ego gets in the way, you're judging. When someone says, like,
you're
when I'm in that group,
yourself, you're judging.
when I'm in my group, there's not an ego one sitting in that room. Everybody's just they check their ego at the door, and we just have great conversations.
When you say ego, because people automatically think it's a bad thing to have an ego, but it isn't. Go ahead, Teresa.
I think it's the soul's tool. I mean, the ego and the soul are interlocked to the extent that the soul uses those moments to connect with you at a higher level within, to help you train your ego for self-respect, to train you how to respond to your own issues, problems, circumstances, challenges, interactions with others in a helpful, healthy, meaningful way. So it's not death to the ego. It's not about everything that we talk about is false or we know who we are. We know we're all these components. We're physical, we're ego, we're thought, we're heart, we're soul, spirit, heart, mind, soul, body. We're all those things. You can't just ditch one at the sake of the others. They all go together,
Balance.
Yeah, it's
but
balance.
you can set it aside.
Right.
Yeah.
The self-respect comes in when you're able to compartmentalize. Okay, we'll put a stick ego over here for a moment, and we're going to stick our body over here, and we're just going to focus on our essence, of who we want to be in this reality, and how we want to project that into the reality. So I'll stop there for now.
That's all good,
because I could go on forever on that. So.
How about you, Sophia?
Oh, good evening, everybody. Do I have self-respect? Finally. Kind of like what Teresa and Brian were saying, I feel that self-respect and self-love go hand in hand. If you don't have respect for yourself, then it's very difficult to love yourself. So I would say, why do I have self-respect is because after the trauma and the self-hatred and the acting out and everything that goes along with that kind of thing, I finally, you finally get to a point where you get sick and tired of being sick and tired, and like people have said before, it takes courage, it takes purpose, it takes a healthy support group to rebuild yourself after life-shaking trauma, because there's different kinds of trauma, like we've talked about in the past. What I did, because my trauma happened when I was a toddler, well, the first part of it, I made a scrapbook of what pictures and what memorabilia I had, so I could look at myself before the trauma and build myself back up and love myself and validate what happened. So I had to work at my self-respect for a long time, because for a long time I was a shell of an individual, and by the grace of the gods and the people that were on my path, I have it now. And are we going on to the second question, or are we just chilling on the first for a minute?
No, go ahead. You just go right ahead.
Who is responsible for my self-respect? That's me. And that's an everyday thing. One, I don't think, and I couldn't tell you how many times I've said this, our culture is not conducive to healthy lifestyles. If you listen
Mhm.
to everything that
Mhm.
comes through your phone, your TV, whatever, you're going to be a miserable creature, because the only reason that they're doing that is because they want your money.
Mhm.
They want your power. They want your
Mhm.
Mhm.
fehu. They want your
Mhm.
wealth.
Yep.
And I look at it this way: when I'm every day, it's like, is that a me problem
No.
or is that a them problem? Because if you can discern between what needs to be addressed, what is my responsibility, then I can release blame and then not turn things on myself again and start claiming things that were never mine to take on in the first place. Because that's how I lost my self-respect after, my initial trauma. It's a battle. You have
Mm.
to want it, you know. But respect, in my opinion, respect is given, trust is earned. And that goes for the self as well.
Mhm.
Um,
Absolutely.
and when do I practice self respect? Every day.
Mhm.
Every day. We are not promised tomorrow. And
Mhm.
I am not putting any more regret t shirts in my proverbial closet. So it's an everyday thing. If I don't have it to give it, I'm going to go curl in my Zen den so I don't have to get a stick to scrape something off I stepped in, you know? But it's an everyday thing. It's important. It's very
Mhm.
important because there's, in my opinion, from what I can tell, mass majority of the mundane world, there's less and less respect,
Mhm.
which starts off with an uneven playing field. You have like these micro inequities, like this person thinks they're, but bull crap.
Mhm. And some
Nobody's,
people think too
yeah,
that thank you for that, Sophia. Some people
yeah,
think too that when you're dealing with someone that everyone does it the way you do. Like they're going to think the same way that you do. And people are who they are through their experiences, what they've
yep,
dealt with in their past, and that's what brings them to that present moment. So to think that
Yeah.
you know what someone else is thinking is really not fair to that person. That's when you have
Mm-mm.
to let people know how you feel, and then
yep,
everyone's on the same page, right? I mean,
exactly.
it makes
Pretty
things a
much.
lot easier, on everyone. Yeah,
Simplifies it.
it does. It really does. Um, Hello, Jasmine and Nick. It's good to see you too. What's your thoughts and feelings about this? Do you have self-respect? Why do you have it? What's your take?
I have so much self-respect that people can just feel the authority that comes in the room when I walk in it.
Hmm.
There you go.
Yeah,
No,
thank you
it's
For
so much.
important.
awareness.
I can't. I've lost track of how many times like new employees come up to me thinking I'm a boss of the place, asking me boss questions. I'm just
Uh-huh.
like, you gotta talk to that one, not me. They don't pay me enough to deal with that.
Let me tell you, it's never
Not in
enough
my
for what
job,
you
man.
have to deal with. Yeah, it's never enough. Yep.
Not my job.
How about who's responsible for your self-respect?
That falls specifically on yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. No one else
Yep.
can dictate that for you. People will try to manipulate you so
Mhm.
they can have a say so in it, but ultimately it's up to you and what you want
Mhm.
to do about it. If you like where your life is, keep going in that direction. If you don't like where your life is going and it's causing you to not have respect for yourself, maybe you need to figure out what it is that you're doing wrong exactly and change it.
Mhm. Ask yourself those hard questions.
Yeah.
Why am I feeling this way? You know, uh, when I deal with my spirit guide, we were talking the other day about how spirit can hear your thoughts. So all your thoughts are never really all your own. They can be heard through spirit because they're pure consciousness. And there's many times that I find myself really being present about what I'm thinking in my mind because I know those thoughts are being heard by my guides. And so when you think about that, it really helps you kind of edit yourself before you even speak it. You're able to go, yeah,
Mhm.
maybe not so much on that one. Yeah,
Mind
it's
control.
interesting. Yes. So Nick and Jasmine, do you guys when do you practice self-respect? Is it 24/7? Is it once in a while? Is it when you feel like it?
It's
When
more
do you
like
practice?
it's like a muscle. Like the more you work it out, the more
Mhm.
easier it gets. So
Yeah.
I have self-respect in the fact that I actually like myself and
Mhm.
that there's always room for improvement. You know what I mean? Like
We're
there's
always evolving.
right, but I'm happy with where I'm at, and I'm happy with the 2 feet I have, and I'm happy with what I have around me and what I have created. You know what I mean? Like self-respect comes with looking inside and looking in the mirror and seeing like, hey, do I like me? Like if I was a random person down the street and I met me, would
Mhm.
I be like, hey, that's cool, or would I be like, who are you? You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
So you really gotta look at it like from a third person perspective, and then once you kind of see yourself outside of yourself, then be like, you know what? I don't like that I'm late all the time, right?
Mhm.
And then you start working on it. And the thing is, your subconscious mind does listen to you as a friend. You know what I mean? As an outside source, because it's so malleable, your subconscious mind, that if you tell yourself, oh, I'm gonna do the dishes today, and then you don't,
Mhm.
subconscious mind sits there and be like, you know what? You lied. You're a liar.
Jasmine, you're so cute. I love that. You lying right now. You lying like a rug.
I'm not calling you a
Lying like a puppy dog.
Right, you know what I mean? And then you lose self-conscious points. You lose points with yourself. Like the brownie point
Yeah.
system works with you too. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
if you do something that is a core value. So like if I actually step up, or like if I defend like an animal or someone else that needs me, I'm like, hell yeah, we're that person. You know what I mean?
Mm.
But like
Mhm.
you have to. It's so easy and natural to be our own worst critic. But
Yes.
you should be your own best friend too. You should be
Mhm.
your biggest supporter. You should be
Yes.
your cheerleader.
Mhm.
And it's
Mhm.
not in an ego way either. It's just I never really liked the phrase of like, oh, I'm the damsel in distress. I'm gonna wait for someone to rescue me. It's like, no, I have the power. I have, these
Yeah.
times where
I
my
got
friend is like,
this.
I'm gonna rescue me. You
Yeah.
know, I'm not. You guys gotta be scared of me. Like,
Yeah. I love
so
that.
Mhm.
you just have to be aware, consciously aware of where you stand and why do you stand there. And then
Mhm.
that's how you grow roots. And then anything that people say to you, you're just kind of like, are you saying this because of me, or are you
Mhm.
projecting right now? But as long as you consider it, that's fine. You know what I mean? Because it's a problem when you don't consider it. You don't consider that you're the issue. If you're just like, oh, it's never me, I'm perfect, then you have a problem. But if you
Mhm.
at least consider it, like, wait, am I the problem, or is it
Yeah.
you? Then
Right.
you're pretty good. You're on a healthy track. At least
Mhm.
I think so. But to answer your question, sorry I rambled.
It's all good.
It's in the books of highly effective teams, 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teams, they call it sharpening the saw. So it's like once you create the saw that you want, you have to go back and resharpen it, because life is exhausting. There's new trials and things that we have to go through. So you have to go back and be like, oh, who am I again? Oh yeah, that's right. Go read your character description. Who are you? What do you want? You know what I mean? That's you have to go back and resharpen the saw, I want to say visualize, but also like express and expose yourself to those passions of why you're alive and why you want to do the things that you want to do. Invigorate that, and you have to revisit that every once in a while. Once it starts wearing off, go back to it.
Mhm.
What that time looks like for how long it wears off, it's different for most people. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
that's why we have weekends according to the system. You have 5 days to work your ass off, and then you get 2 days to relax. So
Mhm.
whatever that may look like to you, it's different for each person.
Yeah. When you're saying about looking at yourself, that mirror work, a good thing to do, and I highly recommend you do this, because you're so in yourself, and you're not really seeing yourself from an outside perspective. If you just recorded yourself, like say with your cell phone for about an hour, just doing whatever you're doing, just to see what you look like, what you're doing, how you're reacting in the world, to just kind of give yourself that mirror look and really look at it and study it, you're going to really start seeing some things about yourself. And that's really the mirror work. But try it with your cell phone for an hour. Record yourself for an hour and see what you say, do, and think. And then you'll have a whole different opinion about who you are. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you know how you're saying that your guides are privy to your thoughts?
Yes.
There are also, I wouldn't say like the adversary, but other people can also pick up on what you're putting down just by your body language. So
That's
you
right.
are not speaking, but if you just go, it's kind of odd. My facial expressions are really obvious. I can't hide crap, so I don't even try to anymore.
Yeah, you don't have a mask. There's no edit button. You're just like, that's it. That's me. That's kind of my point. That's what I'm saying. If you watch
I'm
yourself
like that
for
too.
a good hour, you're gonna see everything. You're not gonna skip a beat, and that's really interesting because then it allows you a way to make some adjustments. Like, oh, I didn't like this about what I did here. I didn't like what I said here. And it really gets you to think about it and to just kind of go inside and go, I don't have to be this way. I can change it. I have the power to change it. But I think people just get so busy with the mind chatter and assuming what others are always thinking that you just get this perspective that people should know automatically what you're thinking and feeling. And it just really doesn't work that way. Yeah.
Oh yeah. The self-respect thing also manifests in the physical. It's not just the mental games or the stuff. Like, for example, how much pride do you take into your job? Are you doing it just because to survive, or do you actually like pat yourself on the back for the good job that you're doing? That type of mindset can show in that way. Or how hygienic are you? Are you going 2 weeks without a shower? Or are you taking a shower at least once a day or once every other day?
Gotta clean that aura. You got to clean the aura.
Those habits also show how much self-respect you have and what you might need to work on.
Yeah.
And also stuff like
yeah, your work ethic is we were talking about that at work of like, what makes good work ethic? I'm like, I just don't want to hurt anybody, like, or have karma come back at me. Like, if you might think you have a mundane job or at your job doesn't matter, but the thing is that you're constantly coming into contact with tons of different people that you don't even know that you can cause a difference. You will cause a difference, whether it's a good one, a positive one, a negative one, or a neutral one. You will cause a difference. So just be aware, even if you think that you're just serving French fries, like you have no idea how many times I've gone and got French fries and they've been floppy, and I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah. Don't mess with the fry.
yeah. Don't put yourself in the headspace of this is what my life is and it's going to stay that way. No, look at it in a way of that it's a milestone, and then you're going to utilize it to the best of its capabilities, and then move on to the next thing. Don't stay stuck.
It's not easy for people to treat others the way they want to be treated. For most people, that's very difficult.
I actually learned that I don't know why my corporate job has been doing more of like psychology stuff, but they said that the golden rule is no longer treat others how you want to be treated, because that's you treating people out of your own perspective.
Exactly.
So you have to treat them the way they want to be treated. So how do you think they want to be treated? And then that's like, that just like kind of shifted it for me, and I'm just like, oh yeah. They're like, yeah, you might think, because since I'm really blunt and I'm very direct.
Me too.
I think it's fair. Like, I think it's fine, because it's like it cuts all the BS out. You know what I mean? I value my time, and the faster I can get.
And I value yours.
Yes. So I try to do that instead of being like taking like the long way around, and then I get bored, and then I forget my point, and it's just not. And
you're like, so what's the point here?
Yeah, but then I have to take them into consideration that not everybody thinks the same way. Not everybody feels about this the same way, and I have to be a little more considerate to like little marshmallows of the world.
Oh yeah, our whole culture is vastly different from everyone else. You know, we're the only people that eat and drive.
Oh yeah.
Everyone else just leisurely like goes to like a cafe or something, and they'll spend like 1 to 2 hours there.
And the Eastern Hemisphere, like Italy, France, and Japan, actually, it's in Japan, it's frowned upon to be eating and walking or eating on the train.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
Yeah.
are in a very rush mindset, I feel like.
Yeah.
That's why,
Yeah.
even though I kind of agree with Jasmine, I do feel like us as Americans, we push too hard with it. I feel like sometimes we
Mhm.
need to dial it back and actually
Yep.
take a breath and enjoy life instead of just going through the noise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's hard when you're trying to make a living and pay those bills and
Yeah.
dealing with so many things. But yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. I've
I
done
hope
that
we
many,
answered your
many
question.
years myself. It's all good. You're doing good. Um, Dalibor, what's your take on all of this? Do you have self-respect, and why do you have it? Who's responsible for your self-respect, and do you practice self-respect?
Sure. Yeah, of course I have self-respect
Mm-hmm.
because I have respect for other people. And tying in with what Sophia said, respect is given, trust is earned. And that's my motto in dealing with other people, especially people I don't know. Respect is automatic. And, I also treat others the way I want to be treated. And basically, it boils down into just the ethical dimension. And also with what I said before, like with approaching it from the maze going the other way.
Mm-hmm.
What does a person with low self-respect look like? Well, they usually treat other people like garbage.
Mm-hmm.
They usually act unethically towards other people. They steal from them. They're discourteous to them. They do things on purpose to piss them off.
Mm-hmm.
Things like that. So the opposite of that would be to act in an ethical manner, as much as possible, to not only your surroundings, not only to other people who deserve it, but also, especially to yourself. Don't
Kind of,
shortchange yourself.
yeah, kind of goes back to last week's show where we were talking about think with your heart.
Yeah,
So if you're thinking with your heart, now that doesn't mean you have to have, wear your heart on your sleeve,
sure.
but you want to come from a heart space. It
hmm
just makes things so much easier. And
hmm
a lot of
Yeah.
people have a hard time with that, but that really comes down to the self.
hmm Yeah, sure. That doesn't mean you're not going to cut a hard bargain, of course, but if you do it ethically
Mhm.
and
And morally.
as what Nick mentioned, with work ethic and stuff like that. Well, everybody has a different idea of what a work ethic is, right?
Mhm.
In my
Mhm.
opinion, a work ethic means work as little as possible, just to get the job done. Because
Mm.
remember, especially if you're working for somebody else, as long as you just get the job done, do the minimum required, that's all they're paying you for, because it's not your company, it's just your job.
Yeah.
That's it.
Mhm.
And unless, of course, you're working at your own company, in which case you want it to succeed. But again, you shouldn't be too avaricious, and you shouldn't be so prideful that you want to use your business as a vehicle to get rich. You should avoid that at all costs, in my opinion. You should strive to live a comfortable life, but no more beyond that. Because you're really who really wants all that burden of wealth? Who wants all that? Or if you're an ethical person, that just means you're going to have to pay more taxes. Do you want to pay more taxes?
How
No.
much do you really need? Are
And how
your
much do you
needs
really
met,
need?
or
Yeah,
are you a
yeah,
greedy sucker?
because in my opinion, the
Speed is good.
state acts unethically. The state
Yes.
acts unethically because it wages murder in my name with money that I send it. Therefore, the less money I send it, the better.
Mm-hmm. I get your point. I see your point.
Yeah.
And chat might be wondering, what does occupations have to do with self-respect? Well, it's all about self-care. Are you running yourself ragged like a dog? You're not giving yourself self-care. The
Mhm.
person that
That's it.
respects themselves understands that resting is as productive as working.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is.
That's
Well,
a hard thing for some people to wrap around.
yeah,
Mhm.
just look at Germany, where I live. Over here, by law, every employee who's worked at his job for more than 2 years gets 6 weeks of paid vacation a year. Yet they have one of the highest worker productivities in the world. Compare and contrast that with the United States, where the rule of thumb is 2 weeks
Mm-hmm.
of paid vacation after you worked in a company for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's besides the fact that you have like 28 paid state holidays a year. every year.
Mhm.
So
Where's the employer's self-respect?
yeah, where's the employer stuff? Exactly.
Mm.
That's why you don't. It's not a climate that's conducive to being an employer.
Mm-hmm. Yep. How about you, Teresa?
Do I have self-respect?
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I do. A
Mm-hmm.
ton of it. Um, I had to surf through life to earn it,
Mm-hmm.
to understand it, to appreciate it for what it was. And I had moments where it didn't seem like I had any. And I think that's all part of life, of growing into adulthood, is learning about yourself, the world around you, and others. And so you're going to slip up and make mistakes now and then, or you're going to do things that aren't so brilliant, or you're going to do things that unexpectedly harm others without realizing it. Um, I've had moments where I drank too much. I've had moments where I was way too overweight. I had moments where where I smoked like a chimney. Um,
But you're a
so
non-smoker now.
yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
it's like you learn how to temper certain things,
Mm-hmm.
and balance certain things in your life. So it's a learning curve to learn who you really are and what you really want, what you really don't want.
Mm-hmm.
So
Temper. I
you're
like
learning
that.
how to you're building your you're building your values. You're building a sense of dignity,
Mm-hmm.
a sense of grace. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and through that you learn integrity. You learn consistency, you learn balance, but you develop values that you can then evolve, change, transform. And everything I've just mentioned affects your attitude. So I've been through some not so great periods that I'm not proud of in my life. Um, that you would think I didn't have much dignity or much honor. But on the other hand, you can be too harsh on yourself too. Like I said, those are growing pains.
Yeah.
But as you become an adult and you accept responsibility for life, the way you're
Mm.
not dependent on mommy and daddy, you're not dependent on a partner, you're not dependent on somebody else to save your own bacon.
Mm-hmm.
That's when you step into who you really are. And if you can go through this spiritual awakening and accept the work involved in that, of meeting yourself head on, then you can find out what you're made of. And you can find out who you really are and make fine tuning adjustments. And that's what I've done over the past couple of years. I've been fine tuning and making adjustments and finding out I put myself in a box, or I put myself in a box that other people were putting me in. And so I don't put myself in a box. I don't allow others to box me in either. And it's not that I don't care what y'all think or people that I love. There are certain special someones that I love deeply, and I care what they think. And so I'll make the adjustment because they might be seeing something that I'm not seeing. And if I think, oh my gosh, I've done something to hurt the one I love the most, then I want to correct that because I want that person. But if, on the other hand, I'm trying to modify my behavior to suit somebody else's perspective of who they think I should be or who they want me to be,
Mm-hmm.
then they're not really loving me and respecting me because they're not letting me be free.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't allow them to put me in boxes. And that was my biggest problem, was allowing people to put me in a box. And my second greatest challenge was I can be pretty harsh with people. I have been. And it's your language that you use and how you approach other people, how you say things to people, I realize makes a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not so much because I'm hurting them, or it's not so much because I'm offending them, because I'm not responsible for how they react to me, but I am responsible for how I do it
Mm-hmm.
myself. And do I feel good about what I've just done?
Mm-hmm.
And when I feel awkward about it, or I don't feel good about it, or I reflect on it later, and it could be immediately or it could be weeks, months later, I reflect on it and go, oh, that's really not me. That was a version of me at that time that did such and such. And so I'll go make amends with that person, or I'll at least let them know how I truly feel. I still might not be real buddy buddy with them, but I'll let them know that, hey, I was wrong about that, or I was too harsh about that.
Mhm.
Again, it's all
Taking
temperance. It's all
responsibility for your actions.
thermometer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you see it over my shoulder here. These are the 8 key points. Being honest. This is how I be honest with people as best as you can. I mean, you don't want to blatantly say something that really shreds them. But when it comes to me, I'll be honest about how I feel. Speaking to others with care while remaining calm, which means I'm not bitching them out or saying hurtful things, but I'm trying to let them know how I really feel. Achieving challenging goals through perseverance. That's another one I picked up off the internet because I'm like, I like that one because that's true. Every time I set up a project goal or something that I want to accomplish, if it got too hard, I'd want to run from it. If it
Mhm.
got too hard, I would look for reasons or excuses to blame that on other things or people. But not now. I face each challenge kind of like it's a game, but also I turn it into something fun or something creative because it can be whatever I choose it to be. It's just I try to go with it a little bit. Taking responsibility for situations and circumstances. That's a biggie. We've covered that many times, haven't we, on this program?
In various ways, various
It,
angles.
yeah, and
Mhm.
it's like when I get into an argument, not an argument, but let's say I'm having a discourse with someone
Mhm.
and they get real defensive.
Mhm.
And then they come at me and they're like, you did this, 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 and this. And I'm like, what are you talking about? This is all your fault. I feel like crap because you said this or you did this or you did that. And I'll be like, you're making that choice to feel that way. I didn't do what you're saying I did, but for some reason you've got that in your mind. And so you have turned it into your reality.
Mhm. And
And
that's that
so,
story you tell yourself. That's what I mean by that. Mhm.
yeah. And so they blame shift. And I have never really been that kind of a person, although I will say to them, okay, I may have gone too far. I was on heavy medication, or I was doing this, or I was doing that. I can see where you would feel that way. I can see how you would interpret it that way. But please, I'm letting you know right now, I don't feel that way.
Mhm.
Yes, you do. Well, then they're
Mhm.
trying to put you in their mold, that box.
Mhm.
Or they'll judge you on something you did years ago when you were 15 years old, or in your 20s you had a viewpoint. Oh
Mhm.
my god, I had a viewpoint. Yes, I did
Mm.
feel that way when I was in my 20s. I'm in my 60s. Hello.
Mhm.
But they put you in that little box like you
Mhm.
used to. You're this way. I'm
Mhm.
I'm what? You're this way. I've been that way in the past. I'm not that way now. How well have you gotten to know me now?
Mhm.
Do you even care? Do you want to
Mhm.
spend time with me? Do you want to
Mhm.
Well,
write me email?
it's just like like the old saying, judge not lest ye not be judged, right? And just
Right.
like
Yeah.
we don't like it when other people judge other people or prejudge other people,
Yeah.
we shouldn't do the same to ourselves. We shouldn't put
Mm.
ourselves in that category and
Mhm.
Yeah.
say like, oh, well, I'm such a despicable person because when I was 20, I was a wasteoid or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like they don't give you any room for change. And the reason being is because they're not making any room for their own change.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And they've done a tremendous amount of change, but they just don't see it because they'll say, I am this way. I've been this way. I was raised this way. Oh, that's a big one.
Mhm.
That is a big one. I
Mhm.
was raised this way. Okay. And you're an adult now, so you're raised. Okay. So can you now raise yourself? I mean, these are the kinds of situations that I deal with. And if I buy into it, or if I react to it in the ways that other people want me to, then I'm not in control of my reactions,
Mhm.
my emotions. And so I define who I am. I define what I like or don't like in a situation or event. So I don't allow other people. I no longer feel like someone can push my buttons and say, you used to be this way and look at what you've turned into. What a waste. Really? That's your opinion of me? I lived my life the way I wanted to. I gained value from it. I did what I became, I enjoyed it, and now I'm moving on to something else. Or something happened to me physically, and I'm learning how to negotiate through recovery of those physical things so that I can be whole and complete. And if it's not the way that I used to be, it's okay because I am who I am now. See?
Yeah.
So I love who I am now, not what you want to turn me into or what you want it to become.
Or what your opinion or thoughts are about me.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
anyway, those are the keys, and these other three are, we all establish boundaries with people, and practicing self-care. That's the biggest one of all, you guys. It's what you it's you don't want to smoke a lot because you could get the cancer. You don't want to drink a lot because you could kill yourself or kill somebody or get liver disease. You don't want to eat nothing but fattening foods because you'll carry all this weight and then that'll affect other parts of your body. It's like a domino
cause
effect.
and effect. Yeah.
It's wanting to walk with yourself in health and happiness and bliss, not create situations where you have dependencies on things that are only going to do you harm or even the harm to others around you. That's self-respect, And the last and not the least of all is accepting help or asking for help.
That's a biggie. A lot of people don't want to ask for help. They don't want to express that.
There's pride involved. There's ego involved. There's there's a notion of false flag. Somewhere, somehow, some way, whether it was through your parents or through your school or through your teachers or through your surroundings, you got into this mindset that you're not good enough, that you can't do things right unless you try harder. You must try harder. You must do it alone. You must stand alone. You must stand on your own 2 feet and be strong. We're saying the same thing, only we're saying internally for yourself to be that way, but externally, it's okay to ask for help and accept help from others. It's through you're gracing them when you do that too, because other people have a need to want to be able to reach out, and so you're blessing them.
How can you help if you don't know? How can you render any kind of aid if you don't know what's going on or what they're thinking? Jasmine, you had a comment? Thank you, Teresa.
It was going along with what Teresa was saying. I feel a great profound relief to know that myself, my self-worth, my life is within my control. You know what I mean? We always have to remember that the certain things that we should put a lot of energy in and certain things that we shouldn't, that we should just let go of or just allow to play out. But the one thing that you always have control over is yourself. At the end of the day, you control yourself.
Yes.
So it brings me relief, because if I'm not happy with something, it's within my power to change it. I don't have to ask permission. I don't need anybody else but me. And there's a way. And that just gives me, I don't know, it gives me peace, because it's like, I don't have to beg anybody to help me. Not saying that, like, okay, I'm going to be honest. I do have a problem with asking for help, because I just, I wouldn't say it's an ego thing. I just don't want to be a burden to other people. And then since I'm already tired, I have to go above and beyond to pay it back. And sometimes I don't have the resources or the energy to pay it back. But that comes with the conditioning that everything's a 2 for 2, or, an eye for an eye thing. And I've certainly been learning that.
But where did we learn that, Jasmine? It's caretakers, as loving, caring people, as both of us are, so full of that kind of moon type energy, nurturing kind of energy, sensitivity. Where did we learn that we would be a burden to someone? Where did we learn? Where?
I know,
Well,
my parents, so my family. So basically,
Programming.
they would always ask,
Right.
so if I do this for you, what are you going to do for me? So like, even when I learned about money, it's like, I give you money for spending
Mhm.
time. Like, it was always a transaction. Everything's a transaction. And even emotions were a transaction as well. So it took someone, a mentor of mine, to be like, I was like, oh, thank you so much for this. Like, I won't be able to pay it. Like, I was already like calculating like how to have like an equal exchange with them. And they're like, no, you happy and you safe is enough payment for me. And I'm like, what? Like, hold on.
Yeah. Jasmine, what do you have
Mhm.
to say to Grumpy Stack? This is really important. I need help, but I will help others before myself. That's kind
There
of
you go. That's another.
self-sacrificing.
Hold up.
Yeah.
That's I don't want to be too blunt about it, but that comes from a low self-esteem. That means that you don't think that you value as much as the people around you.
Mhm.
And
You don't value yourself as much as
Yes.
you value others.
Right.
and that can come from a very big and very giving heart, though. So if you do feel that way, that's just because you feel like other people deserve it. But at the same time, if you have that much love for someone else, imagine if your best friend came to you the same way you come to you, right? So if you imagine your situation, right, as your best friend, and they would come to you and ask you for help or ask you for advice, what would you offer them as somebody else, as like detaching yourself from it? And then you can realize, oh, wait, that I can do that for me too. Once you realize that you're worth the same kind of love that you give out,
Right.
it changes things.
Yeah, well, that's also a product of like the social deformation resulting from enculturation, and specifically celebrity culture. This whole culture of worship of celebrity, that's kind of warped people's self-image, and that affects their self-respect because they're constantly stacking themselves up against all these people that they're constantly being exposed to, all these celebrities, or the celebrocracy, as I call it, where they can't, in their mind, measure up to these people. You know, in other words, they're constantly being exposed to unrealistic expectations instead of being honest with themselves and seeing, okay, well, this is what I can realistically offer other people, and therefore, you know, there's no reason I shouldn't be offering the same level of all this other to myself, right?
It's like
But
when you're on an airplane and the oxygen mask falls down, you have to put that on yourself first.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
You can't help anyone else until you do that for yourself. So
Yeah.
it's that idea of you can help as many people as you want to, but make sure that you're taken care of first before you put that out there for others.
The one
I think the whole concept the whole concept of nobility during the Middle Ages kind of twisted things around into more of a self-sacrificing things where, you know, I like this, what Dolly's saying, I stand alone, you know, or the mottos that came out of that era are reflections of knowing very well that you really should stand on your own 2 feet. You know, nobody else is going to be your savior but you. There's nothing from outside of you but that from which is within. So when I say learning how to accept it, help from people, it's not so much that every time you turn around you need to be bailed out. That's not what I'm talking about.
Well, because in the Middle Ages, ordinary people were living in a world that the elites created, right? They owned everything, right? You stood no chance of being on their level. Whereas in today's day and age, we finally have reached the age where it's the working class, the craftsmen that are in charge, because it's the craftsmen, the electricians of this world that created electronics, that created the internet, which has finally leveled the playing field, where the ordinary person has the same chance at having a modicum of power compared to like these elites, right?
So
but it's go ahead.
Sorry, just the one thing I was going to say.
That's all right.
to what Laura was saying about the oxygen mask is that the saying that I learned was a broken tool cannot help another broken tool, right? So if your tool is broken and you're trying to help someone else, it might work for like 3, 4, 5 times, but eventually it's going to break because it's not reinforced enough to actually put on that much work. So you have to take care of yourself in order to help other people. It's kind of like also like a game of telephone or like infection. Like if you can only offer that person that's asking for your help as much as you know. So if you don't put in the effort to know more about how to help, and in turn that ends up helping yourself, you're only going to offer them as much as you can, and you're always going to, that bar of how much self-respect you have for yourself is always going to stay the same, because you have to, it's an investment. You have to invest in yourself. And it's not from a selfish point of view. The more you work on yourself, the more you have to offer for more people. Because if not, then it's always going to be like this circle of misery of my professor, he told me, he's like, show me who your friends are and I'll show you who you are. And I'm like, yeah, but that's not fair. Not everybody is born with, like how you guys are talking about the elites. Like not everybody's born with the same with the same status, with the same offers, with the same money. So why is it their fault that they got to be born in like a ghetto area? Like that's so I never really liked that phrase earlier, right? And they're like, no. So say for example, if you were having a bad day, right? And you were hanging out with alcoholics and druggies, and they want to help you, and you're explaining to them how bad your day was and how bad life is going for you, what are they going to offer you? They're going to offer you the same thing that helps them get through a bad day, because they don't see a problem with it. And then that's how it becomes dangerous for you. And I was like, oh, because they've never, it takes a certain level of self-discovery and self-respect to be able to respect another person.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, but
Precisely.
getting back to that whole ghetto thing, I mean, people who are born in a ghetto, they're born into a whole skill set that most of us can only dream of, right? They're actually born with a hell of a lot more skills than the people that are born in these elite circles. They're born with no skills because they don't need any.
Yeah. Imagine this, you guys. You've lived many lifetimes, okay? If you believe in reincarnation or consecutive lifetimes, you've lived those roles. You've been through that. You've been rich, you've been poor, you've been sick, you've been healthy. You've done that over and over and over. It's just a role you're playing, but it's how you play the role that counts. Like Sophia.
Perfect. Yeah.
Well, you were talking about, all the adversity and everything that you had been through as a kid, your traumas, your dramas. I know what that's like, and it shapes who you are for a reason. Do you agree?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Not everybody came from a loving home, and kind of what Jasmine was saying a little bit ago. Everybody's the way they are for a reason. We don't all grow up in every facet of our lives equally, and I feel for the most part, all of us are doing the best we can with what we have. And we're meant to evolve, to kind of speak to what Teresa was saying, navigating those challenging people in her life that were still stuck on who she was 10 years ago. We're meant to evolve. If you're not changing, even in small incremental ways, you're asleep.
You're just
and you're a slave. You're also a slave.
Yeah, there you
go. Whether you know it or not.
Yeah.
It's a challenge, but reminding myself that I'm not, there is no comparison. No, I haven't walked a step in anybody else's shoes but mine. So I keep my side of the street clean. I treat people with respect, and if I give respect and don't get respect in return, then it becomes my problem, because I'm controlling what I'm going to allow. And if someone is unreasonable or doesn't have a concept of respect and self-respect,
Mm-hmm.
then they get different scenery in my life. Period.
Mhm.
I've
So
worked
you're
too
just not
hard.
tolerating it. You're not putting up with it. If it's not something that feeds you in a positive way, you're just pretty much shutting down on it, right?
Including my genetically similar strangers. I have people I'm related to that I no longer speak to because if we can't have a healthy conversation,
Mm-hmm.
if it's not going to add to our walk, then I'm going to have to love you from a distance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's not because it's fun for me.
And it takes great strength to walk away from that, to not
And to stay away
exactly.
is the
Yeah.
challenge.
Nick could speak to this. Nick, you're about to fall out of your chair. You got something to say. Let's hear it.
Energy vampire is bad.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh, yeah.
great. That was great.
Sometimes you gotta keep it simple. It is that simple. Why are you hanging out with energy vampires? Do you lack self-respect? Get out of it. Why are you in it? Why are you in that
Sometimes
environment?
people
For
are embracing
acceptance.
an illusion.
Yeah.
That's true.
Like you see that person's potential. You can't fall in love with their potential. You have to love them for who they are, right
Yeah,
where they are
yeah,
right now. Because if
Yep.
you fall in love with their potential, like, oh, this person can do that, that can get into like manipulating behavior. Because they're
Yeah.
the only person that control what manifests in their life. You can cheer them on, but you
Yep.
can't be attached to the outcome.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep. It
So-
is them at the end of the day. It is
Yep.
them that makes the choice of wanting to improve themselves or not.
Yep.
So you need
Exactly.
to
Right.
surround yourself with people that are actually showing it through their actions that they're self-improving.
Or that it's
Mhm.
important to them.
Yeah.
Mhm.
If you're not,
And that it's important for you to be able to walk away and say, I'm not playing that game anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not
Yeah, and
gonna happen.
that applies not only to people but also situations like jobs, right?
Yeah.
If you're in
Yeah.
like a gulag situation where the employer is just blatantly exploiting you, then
Yeah.
if you want to be respectful to yourself, you have to quit. You have no choice, really.
Mhm.
Right.
People
Can we
also-
talk for just briefly, just a moment? I'd like to get everyone's opinion on this because
Sure.
it really does. It is a prevalent behavior, not
Okay.
only amongst community members, but also amongst family members. I find this just about everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Holding grudges.
Mm-hmm.
When someone holds things against
Oh,
you
I
for
can hold a
whatever,
grudge like no other.
yeah,
Did this to
I
me.
had a-
Well, I'm gonna do this to you. Oh, I played that game. Oh, I was very good at it too. Uh-huh.
yeah, I've had people who have, for whatever their reason, can't let go. They're like a dog with a bone in its jowls, and you try to take the bone out of their mouth and they're like, and it's
Mhm.
like for something 20, 30 years ago, for God's sakes,
Mhm.
people have committed crimes based on holding a grudge,
And then in
or
the
they've
name of
done things or
God.
so it's like whatever the reason, I want to share this with you. It's my opinion that that's not my burden to bear.
Mm-hmm.
If any of you has a grudge against something I may have said or done or and you can't let go of it or see
Mhm.
me for who I am or get to know me for what I believe in now that's different from, if you don't really care that much about me to really want to know, but you want to keep seeing it. It's like that putting a person in a box kind of thing I was talking about
They
earlier.
don't see your
Holding
changes.
a grudge is,
They don't
Yeah.
see your changes when you change. And
yeah,
then they wonder, what the hell are you doing? What is so, why are you not
Yeah.
reacting the same way? Go ahead, Sophia. Sorry, Teresa. Go ahead, Sophia.
What
That's
you guys
okay.
were just saying,
Uh-huh.
maybe they don't want to see the change. Maybe they have embraced that version of you that they're comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
And that it falls down directly into a them problem. Because getting
Mhm.
close to someone is a privilege. And if they don't
Yeah.
recognize that aspect that I've applied to my life, then you're not on equal footing to begin
Mhm.
with.
Right.
And it's just a recipe for toxicity. I don't have time for that.
right.
7.8 billion people. A third of them speak English. Come
Mhm.
on.
I ain't got time
Yeah.
for that.
Come on. Really?
Yeah.
I mean, now if
Life's
it's
too
something
short.
that's
Good
if
point.
it's something that has recently occurred between me and another person, and I'm feeling, a little, you know, I might allow myself to have that feeling because it's my feeling, not theirs. But I might
Mhm.
allow myself to have that little thing against them, not against them, but just don't want to be around them for a while, till things cool down. And then I might approach them and see how things have changed, or maybe do some introspection and say, do I really still feel that way? Or is there a way do I care enough about this person that's in my community to want to get, so I have to do that. That's my decision to do that. And so when someone's doing that to me, that's your decision to do that. So
Mhm.
you do what you think you need to do and go play in your sandbox, and I'll go play in mine, and maybe someday the two will meet back.
Well, see, the other issue here is also sensitivity, right? A lot of people are hypersensitive about stupid shit, and that's called pettiness, and that's a vice.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
it is.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll go with
Mhm.
petty.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah,
But
petty.
Yeah.
so how does this relate back to self-respect? So I
Mhm.
don't want to sound like I'm coming off being judgmental of them, but it seems to me, at least where I'm concerned, if I'm doing that, I'm not like my mother. My mother used to hold grudges. Oh my God. But my mother could also let go of them, to give the shirt off of her back to someone who treated her miserably. I saw her do it repeatedly, and I'm like, wow, she forgave them. Practicing forgiveness is so important. Lori and I have been talking about this for the past week or so. It's accepting, letting go. And if you have to back up for a while and set a boundary for a while, you can do that, but you let them in, you reach out, if you really care about them and they're part of a group that you love, or another person, then you're going to allow them, you're going to give ground
Yeah, but
to reach out, but at the same time, let them know.
at the same time, you got to realize that the universe has no forgiveness. You may have forgiveness, right? And that is a noble characteristic. But karma doesn't forgive. The universe doesn't forgive either.
Well, there's
Well, I don't
consequences.
know. That's interesting, Dalbert. I don't think I agree with that.
Sophia?
I think as we learn forgiveness, the universe gathers that information in its knowledge base. And so, just as the universe has learned how to love through us, they've learned how
Hmm.
to forgive through us too. I'm sorry.
Mhm.
Go ahead, Sophia.
My bad. Sophia.
No worries, dude. In my opinion, it is our
Sorry, Lori.
job to vet the energy around us.
Mhm.
It is our job to vet the energy around us. How we remove ourselves from a situation, hopefully we'll have, tact, which, but I don't feel that I owe anybody anything.
Mhm.
Hmm.
I don't.
Mhm.
That
Yeah.
if someone's like, oh, well, you have to, no, I don't.
Mhm. Mhm.
No, I
Yeah.
don't.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Because if ultimatums are involved, that equals toxic. But,
Yeah.
if everybody's
Yeah.
like, oh, well, that person's judgy, what exactly are they judging? Are they judging the energy around them? Because as a healthy metaphysician, that's part of the deal.
Hmm. I guess
So
so.
if
Yeah.
people want to say,
Yeah.
you're holding a grudge, well, okay, just kind of like anger. You have different degrees of anger. You have different degrees of love. You have different degrees of a grudge. Me personally, once you tick me off, I will give you a different boundary. You get moved back a row,
Mhm. What do you
and
What do
But
you
you just
tell
said the
someone,
word
Soph?
once. Go
Go
ahead. Go
ahead.
ahead, Lori.
Go ahead,
No,
Teresa.
you just said the word once they've done something.
uh-huh.
See, I know people who draw a line in the sand. Hurt me once, you'll never hurt me again.
Nope, you get 2 shots. 2 shots in my life. I give
See?
people 2 shots.
Hmm.
If you do something to me once, I will let myself not be angry. I will go through the calming down process, and it won't be forgiveness, okay? Because for me, forgiveness is a very Christian thing,
Yeah.
okay?
Hmm.
And we all know that I'm not Christian, so but if somebody does something to me once, I just kind of make a mental note. I'm like, maybe that was speed bump. They were going through something. I get that. That's fine. But if that behavior repeats, and you are hurting or affecting people, myself, or people that I feel it's my job to look out for,
Right.
then that's a you problem, and it's my position to say, yeah, release the Kraken. Go, Robert.
But to me, that's not a
Mhm.
grudge, honey. What you're explaining to me, sister, is not a grudge. It's a boundary. But a grudge is when you, with vehemence,
Yeah.
will set out to hurt the other person
I
in a
welcome the
revengeful
challenge.
kind of way.
Mhm.
It's holding a grudge so that no matter what they do, you sabotage them wherever they go with whatever group of people they're with. You
What
keep
a
talking
waste of
smack about
energy.
them. You still downgrade them to other family
Law of
members.
karma.
You hold a
Law of
grudge.
cause and effect. Law of balance. I mean, I quit kicking my own butt for the most part a couple decades ago, but who am I to get in someone's way? Because it must be doing something for them. Or either that or they haven't grown to the point to where they can break out a way of learned behavior. Because most people I found that hold grudges and behave in that fashion, so they don't know any better. Because that's what everybody else did around them when they were growing up. So they're
There
thinking,
you go.
well, if A
There you
happens,
go.
B is the result. I mean,
Thank you. Yeah.
really? I mean, is it serving you?
Mhm.
Sorry, go Jazz.
Jasmine?
Most people in psychology, stop it. Okay. The reason why people hold grudges and why they are so reminiscent about it and why they're so passionate about it is because they keep reliving that moment every single day.
Yep.
So that hurt that they got, because it's a hurt, and I'm not sure if it's an ego hurt or what kind of hurt happened with that grudge or what caused that.
It's a suffering, in my opinion.
Yeah,
It's a
and
degree of suffering.
they just put themselves in a loop. You know what I mean? And
Yep.
since they put themselves in that loop,
Mm-hmm.
fear gets a hold of it, anxiety gets a hold of it, and it starts exaggerating reality. And it kind of just starts, to me, it's like, I don't really think I hold grudges. And I don't actually, when Sophia brought it up, I don't really think I forgive. I think I come to an understanding of like, okay, I understand why that happened now. I understand where you're coming from, but I don't necessarily give. To me, forgiveness is more like giving people like an okay or like a pass to hurt me. And it's like, no, I'm never going to give you that. I'm never going to give you a pass to hurt me. So, but I understand where you were coming from. To me, as long as you realize the error and you make the effort to improve, you might not be like in my inner circle. I might not call you for coffee to come over my house. Like I might see you every other weekend, or like, you know what I mean? Like you're now at a distance until you prove to me, or until I can actually see and gather that you understood how that hurt me. You know what I mean? Then
You can't hurt me unless I allow it.
Boom.
You cannot
Yeah.
hurt me.
Yeah.
Anything you say, your words, it doesn't matter anymore. You can say whatever you want, but I'm the one that allows the hurt. I'm the one that takes it a certain way. If I'm strong enough to say, I'm going to let that go, or that's not on me, that's on you, I'm just going to walk away until things calm down.
Yeah. And I think hurt comes with expectations. Because once you start getting close to people, I mean, I'm guilty of this. Once I start getting close to people, I start dropping my guards and I start getting too comfortable and I start just being unfiltered. You know what I mean? And that's not always like a good thing, because then me unfiltered could be funny sometimes, but it could also be like really, I'm not thinking, I'm just in the moment so much. You know what I mean? So I start acting like a 5-year-old, and then it's like, oh yeah, I'm like, oh,
overload.
I got comfortable, you know? But I think it comes with that set of expectations. And I think those expectations are subliminally, I don't know if I said that, subliminally intertwined in everything that we do. Like what a partner should be from Disney. Like, you should have a Disney romance. You should have like, an anime life. You should have like, there's all these different little programmings that happens, and it gets like, how can I say it? I start to understand why people can get lost in the sauce and why people tend to lose themselves, because there's so much information being thrown at you that when do we really have a quiet time unless we create a quiet time? You know what I mean?
That's right.
Brian, do you want to chime in on this a little bit? I feel like your wheels are spinning there a little bit.
Yeah, whether it's right or wrong, but it's right for me. One thing I learned, it's not that deep. It's only my mind tricking me to think that it is that deep. It's just a situation that happened, and what did I learn from that situation? But it's always it's just your mind tricking you. My uncle one time, he was arguing about something. I said, it's not that deep. He's like, well, it is to me. And I was like, well, then I'm walking away, because it's not that deep. You're just thinking it's that deep. It's because your mind is tricking you to think that way. If you don't think it's deep, guess what? It's not going to bother you. It's not going to be deep. You're going to be able to
making
deal
a
with it better.
conscious choice, right, Brian?
Exactly.
To decide how you're going to feel about something. Is it
Exactly.
something you really need to, do you need to go there, or do you not, does it have to be this way? No, it doesn't. You always have a choice on how the way that you're going to react to someone and your feelings, how you feel. That is under your control.
And a lot of it is, they're looking for a reaction from you, because that is what they're wanting. They're wanting that reaction. And if you don't give them that reaction,
because that validates their thinking.
Exactly. And that's what they're trying to do, is validate their thinking by getting that reaction from you.
They want that energy.
Well, I would rather surround myself with people that really want to know me and really care about me, really want to know what I think, what I feel. They don't have to agree with me, but they want to know enough to know what I think. They want, I'd rather be around people like that than be around people who are constantly trying to reject me based on their notion of who they think I am or should be or am not in their perspective and point of view. So they're not the right person for me.
I agree with you.
They're not the right people for me.
I want to add that they respect me as much as I respect them. They respect me in my places. Because
exactly,
my family, they claim they love me, right? They claim that they want what's best for me, but it's always what they think is best for me, not what I decide.
Well, exactly. I would agree with Grandpa Brian, because I always judge it like this. Like, is this gonna make a difference to me in 10 years? Am I even gonna remember this in 10 years? If yes, then hold a grudge. Yeah, I stand by all my grudges.
Can't take my grudge away.
Yeah.
No, that's mine. You can't have that. That's mine to bear. That's my cross to bear.
Yeah, because if it's something petty, if it's something that's just that you're going to forget in the next 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or an hour, then why even think about it?
But you have to go through all that. You have to live through that. You have to experience all that to understand that side of it. And to be able to go, ooh, there's this and there's this. I really don't want this anymore. I don't like how I feel. I don't like how people perceive me. But how can I be truthful to myself? How can I serve me and not be so concerned about what other people are thinking and doing to you?
Well, we're fast reaching an hour and a half here, and Lori has a beautiful closing out thing, and I have something to read as well.
So we're gonna have you read that first, and then I'll end the show with the other.
Yeah, because yours is perfect for what we just discussed. It's right on. It's like Lori has this foresight. She's so psychic.
You're silly.
You want me to read this?
Silly.
Okay.
Yeah, you read yours and give a little background on where how did you come across this? Where does it come from?
Okay. Well, this really spoke to me. It's something I'd like to read and share with you all because it in a roundabout way, gets to the heart of the matter. And it's really a metaphor. The whole thing is really a metaphor, but it touches on things that if it happened to me growing up and going on this journey, I'm sure it's happened to millions of you as well. So I think you'll relate to this, but it's a reading that was posted on Facebook from a group I follow that's called She's of Love. She is of love. She's of love. So it's a poem by Beckley Helmsley. So hats off to whoever Becky Helmsley is, because it's well written, and I think it's very poignant. All right, so it goes like this. She sat at the back, and they said she was shy. She led from the front, and they hated her pride. They asked her advice and then questioned her guidance. They branded her loud when she was shocked by silence. Then were shocked by her silence. When she shared no ambition, they said it was sad. So she told them her dreams, and they said she was mad. They told her they would listen, then covered their ears and gave her a hug while they laughed at her fears. And she listened to all of it, thinking she should be the girl they told her to be best as she could. But one day she asked, hey, wait a minute, what's the best for herself? Instead of trying to please everyone else. So she walked into the forest and stood with the trees. And she heard the wind whisper and dance with the leaves. She spoke to the willow, the elm, and the pine. And she told them what she'd been told time after time. She told them she felt she was never enough. She was either too little, too far too much. Too loud, too quiet, too fierce or too weak. Too wise or too foolish, too bold or too meek. Then she found a small clearing surrounded by firs, and she stopped and she heard what the trees said to her. And she sat there for hours, not wanting to leave, for the forest said nothing. It just let her breathe.
Mm.
What book is that?
It's a poem by
a
Beckley Helmsley, Helmsley. It's just a
Beautiful.
poem.
Yeah.
And it touched me because all these things are things I'm sure we've all been through.
Any relation to Leona Helmsley? No?
Don't know. But I do know this. Even if we're far away from a forest, even if we're nowhere near a forest, there is a forest within.
Mm-hmm.
There is that place of peace, of quiet from within.
Yeah.
And you just have to be willing to sit with yourself and find that space of quiet and listen to your own heart. Listen to your heart's thoughts and not your ego mind, but your heart. Listen to the universe, your heart. That knowledge and wisdom will come to you, and you will come to find your own truth of who you really are, not what all these other people are saying.
Mm-hmm.
That is where your self-respect comes
Your
from.
divine
that quiet
divinity, self that exists after this, that is eternal. Yeah. Well said, Teresa. That's a really, really good poem. Sophia, did you know that poem? You did. Yeah, because you know it very well.
She was saying it word for word.
Yes. Yeah, I saw that too. Yeah. Awesome. That's awesome.
That is how I bring myself back to center.
Mm-hmm.
That going through those steps and realizing that there are people out there that are unreasonable.
Mm-hmm.
There will be some people that'll think you're not good enough. There'll be people that think you're way too much. I am the best version of myself, and I got just as many to take care of business, but not enough to get my feelings hurt. I'm not down
Exactly.
here to impress anybody. I've
Nope.
said it and I will say it again. I am
Mhm.
down here to humor the gods, to add to the collective intelligence, and have a good time. And if
Yep.
what
Yeah.
you're bringing into
Rock
my
on.
life confronts any of those three,
Yeah.
it's going to be very short lived. And if you're really stupid, it may be unhealthy and painful. So,
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
your choice.
yeah.
Yeah. Well,
That's reasonable. Yeah.
yeah, well said,
But with
Sophia. Well said.
consequences.
Yes, right, Jasmine? Well,
Rinse and
this
repeat.
little self-respect thing caught my attention. I'll read this real quick and then we'll say goodnight to everybody. Yeah. Self-respect. When someone treats you like you're just one of many options, help them narrow their choice by removing yourself from the equation. Sometimes you have to try not to care, no matter how much you do, because sometimes you can mean almost nothing to someone who means so much to you. It's not the pride, it's self respect. Don't expect to see positive changes in your life if you surround yourself with negative people. Don't give part time people a full time position in your life. Know your value and what you have to offer, and never settle for anything less than what you deserve. Well, folks,
Mhm.
hope you got something out of this show. I want to thank everybody that on the panel tonight. Thank everyone in chat. Thank you so much for watching and participating. Um, it really is a labor of love that we do this. These are the things that we're learning and that we've applied in our lives, and we're simply
Yeah.
sharing it with you. And
Mhm.
that's what Spirit is really passionate about, is spreading that
Yeah.
knowledge. Because when there's knowledge and you know yourself better, you'll be a better person in society, and you'll be a better person for yourself.
Amen.
Mhm.
So there
Thank
we
you,
go.
Lori.
Thank you. So anyway, thanks again, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend. We look forward to seeing you next week, and watch for the trailer so you know what we're chatting about. And thanks
That's
to
right.
all. Much love and appreciation for you.
Bye.
Peace.
Bye, everybody.
Later.
Have a great weekend. We
Bye-bye.
love you. Bye.